It's like how to make Mary nervous.
Not as nervous as last night.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
How
relaxed.
to make Mary nervous? Don't tell her what's going on.
Control, and in control.
Now, the reason why I asked Mary up is I want to ask her a question for your sake, and that is, in the last 8 years, have you ever known of an emotion you've had before I knew what the emotion was?
No. Never.
Mm.
And in fact, we've had many discussions where I've wanted to say that my emotion is something else, or I just have been completely insensitive to what you're saying. So not really disagreeing, but just like, really?
Sort of clueless.
Clueless.
Yep.
And then inevitably, whether it's in 2 days, 2 weeks or 2 years, I find that, yes, that emotion not only exists, it's like a whopping emotion inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Now, why am I saying that? Why did I ask her that question, do you think? Any idea? If we come down to...
A lesson to us to have more weight with what you're telling us, even if we may not initially see it ourselves.
Yeah, have a bit more trust.
Yeah.
Have a bit more trust. You know, I'm used to communicating more emotionally, so have a bit more trust about that. It will help you a lot. If you can trust it earlier, it'll help you more. Does that make sense? For many of you haven't trusted it for years and years. So, you know, for Mary, there's many times she hasn't trusted it for years, isn't there, darling?
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore, but
No.
it happened a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was a lot about me wanting to maintain a facade of myself, to myself,
Yeah.
a belief about how I was and what I was really feeling that seemed preferable to the pain or the shame or whatever.
So
I
it was
felt.
driven by the fear of the pain
Yes.
more than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Now, I raise that before we do a Q&A, because many times last time we did Q&As, you weren't listening to my answer. And to be honest with you, I don't see much point in sharing my answer when people are not listening to it. And many of you don't listen because you just can't trust that what I'm saying to you is actually the point that you're raising. Many of you don't feel that. So I want to just a couple more guidelines for you about Q&As with this engagement with me. First thing is, I know what I know. Now, what that means is I also know what I don't know. So when you hear me say, I don't know, it's because I don't. And when you hear me say, it is this, it's because I know. Do you follow me? Now, you don't have to believe I know, that's up to you. But I will tell you when I don't know. And I'll also tell you when I have an opinion, but I don't know. Does that make sense? So when all of you guys have asked me about earth changes, I've always said to you, this is my opinion. But you've taken it as, this is what I know. But it's not. It's only my opinion. What I know is God's truth. Now, how do I know that? Because I'm telling you, I can feel what God feels about the matter. Now, again, you don't have to believe me, but I can. And you, when you're in that same space, you will be able to do the same thing. It's not anything special that's given to one person and not to others. God gives it to every person who is in a specific condition. Does that make sense? So you will be able to know what you know once God is telling you God's truth and you can feel that. So in conversation with you, God often, through this emotional experience, tells me what the truth is immediately about what you're raising and what emotion it is. Now, with regard to issues that I have yet to deal with, it's much more difficult for me. So I've yet to, for example, fully address the issues associated with worth, personal worth, particularly when it comes to my role, my God-assigned role. And so what I know about those things is only my opinion, because I've yet to address the issue of what I know on those facts. But none of those things, well, those things very, very rarely, if ever, affect you, because they are things related to my personal issues, related to God's treatment of me specifically, and the way God's set me as the messenger of truth, if you like. And you won't have to ever address those particular issues except by, at some point, hopefully one day in the future, trusting me a bit more than you do. But I'm not asking you to trust me without experimentation, am I? I'm asking you just to have an open attitude when it comes to my answers. Just like a child would have an open attitude and able then to assess it later. So instead of instantly dismissing, you would be far better off listening with an open mind and an open heart, and assessing it later through experiment is what I'm suggesting to you. You don't have to trust without doing that. In fact, you should not trust without doing that. You should always work through your own assessment of things. But what I'm suggesting is it would be a lot easier in these Q&As if you at least hear what I've got to say without shutting it down before we even get started. Does that make sense? Yep.